Hey everyone, it's the Ioniq guy. You join me today with the 2024 Kona Electric, but this is the limited trim. You might remember a few months ago I did spend a few hours with an SEL version of the Kona Electric, and obviously that wasn't enough time for me to really have too many opinions on the car. And unfortunately this time around too, with the limited trim, it caught me at a really bad time. I'm currently packing up my house. I'm moving in a couple days. I've only been able to put a little over 100 miles on it over the last week. We just haven't been doing a lot of driving. We've been spending a lot of time at the house packing. So unfortunately, I'm not even gonna call this review. This is kind of more of just some further thoughts on what I like and what I dislike about the car now that I've spent a few hours in it over the last week. So if you want to see a more in-depth tour of the new Kona Electric, check out the video in the description. There's a link to a video I shot a few months ago where I get into more of the finer details about the changes versus the outgoing Kona Electric. So if you want to know all the fine details, check out that video. That will give you everything you're looking for. So today is just going to be mostly likes and dislikes. And let's start with the exterior and talk about what I like. Here, I really do like the design of the Kona Electric. I like the proportions. I like that they've implemented a lot of the design cues from the Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, and upcoming Ioniq 9. I am not crazy about this color, Meta Blue Pearl. It's a little too purplish for me. There's definitely some blue in certain angles, but most of the time to me it looks periwinkle, and I really don't want to drive a periwinkle car. That's just me. In terms of ground clearance, you can see it has the illusion that it has decent ground clearance because the rocker panels do kind of hide the battery pack down below. But when you do squat down, you can really start to see that that battery hangs a good 3 inches lower than the rocker panels. So definitely don't go off-roading with this thing. Now I did level 2 charge this at 11 kilowatts because new for 2024, the Kona supports 11 kilowatts. And I had no issues with it slowing down or derating or anything. So level 2 charging here seems pretty good, at least on this new car. It only has a little over 1,000 miles on it. I do like the fact that the wheel arches are body colored, so they don't kind of stick out and look like just big ugly black wheel arches. I do like that. There is a decent amount of gloss black plastic here on the limited trim, which I think is okay on the exterior. I do think it's kind of odd that you have it on the bottom there. And then up here on the door pillars, this is a matte finish. So it's just a little disjointed that you have different finishes of black on the exterior of the car. I would have liked to have seen them pick one and stuck with it around the entire car. Something that I don't like is the fact that you have this really cool LED light bar that runs across the front of the car. So I just flipped the lights into the on position. You'll see it's completely going across the entire width of the car. Now, if you have the headlights in auto mode, and you go into drive, so it turns on your LED daytime running lights, you'll see that it's only the outside edges that are illuminated. It doesn't actually illuminate the center section. Not sure why that is. I have that light bar. If it's there, then it should be on all the time, even during the day. That's just my opinion, but something I wish they would change. Something that is pretty unique here, it must be vestigial because it is a gas car as well, but you have a pretty deep trunk area here. You could put a compact spare tire in here. So if you really don't want to deal with a can of Fix-A-Flat when your tire gets punctured, you could stick one back here. And that's pretty unique. The trunk is pretty good size. With us moving, I did put some garbage bags full of clothes for donation back here, and it just swallowed up about 5 full-size garbage bags, no problem. So I am happy with the amount of cargo capacity that this smaller car does actually have. Something that has been driving me a little crazy with this car has been the key fob and access to the car. So I will explain that a little bit further. So I am used to Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6, that when you walk up to the car, it senses your proximity and then pops out the door handles for you to then get in. Now here on the new Kona, there is no proximity sensing. As you approach the car, you will hear nothing happen. Now once I'm near the car and I put my hand on the back of the door pad, it then unlocks the door and then gains you access. So I did not realize that, and I was expecting that the car would unlock on my approach. That's just not the case here. And then you have a separate lock button as well. So when you press that, then the door is locked and you can walk away. So that kind of caught me off guard just because Hyundai's other EVs don't work in this fashion. And I think part of the reason for the confusion with me was the fact that most of the time with this type of door handle, there's a rubber pad on the back that you are actually physically pushing in and out. But here, this seems to be capacitive based. So the second I even touch that piece of plastic, it unlocks the door. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just not what I was expecting. And obviously this is a Hyundai, so the doors will not lock when you walk away. Now, I am a fan of the front charge port location. It's really easy for pulling into a garage and plugging in, or pulling into a DC fast charger and plugging in. I have commented about this in the past, and people have tended to say that if you live in a northern climate where you get a lot of snow, that snow and ice builds up on the front, and it makes just plugging in after your daily commute kind of a hassle, because then you got to clean off the charge port with your hand and get it all nasty and everything. So I can appreciate that. I've never had to deal with that because I've never driven a car with a front charge port. Mine have always been on the rear corners of the car, so I can't really comment on personal experience, but people seem to think that it's kind of annoying in that regard. The updated Kona Electric actually has a decently sized front trunk. So this is the standard 120 volt charging cable. You could easily fit probably 4 of them in here. Now, you're not going to fit a piece of luggage or anything in here, but for all your accessories and stuff you like to take on the road with you, a lot of that stuff could actually fit in here. I am a little disappointed though that it still has a lid and that they just didn't build a gasket around the edge that's sealed with the hood. Something I truly hate is that they have to put electric badging on the exterior of this car. I know the Kona can be had in a gas version, but even still, the exterior of this car is different enough from the gas version that I don't think it needs the electric badging. I don't need to blast it and share it to the rest of the world. There's too many freaking psychopaths on the road that have issues with electric cars for whatever reason and are willing to road rage and brake check you. If I were to buy this car, that would be the very first thing I would do, would peel that badging off. And if you don't think that electric car hate is a real thing, go on YouTube, watch people getting coal rolled, watch people getting brake checked. It's really, truly disgusting. I'm a little surprised to see that here on the limited trim, you have the exact same 17-inch wheels as on the SEL trim as well. So no special wheels here for the top, most expensive version of the Kona Electric. I think it's pretty cool that they implemented the rear-facing reflectors into the same pattern that runs across the entire back of the car. So over the last week, I've only put about 120 miles on it. You can see I've averaged 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, on my highway range test, I did average 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour at an average speed of about 70 miles per hour. And that is the exact same efficiency I got with the old 2021 Kona Electric before we turned it in when my fiance's lease ended. So really doesn't seem like it's a much more efficient vehicle than the outgoing version, which is a little unfortunate. I would have liked to have seen some gains there, but it's still a relatively efficient vehicle. So on the highway, you can expect low 200s if you're doing 70 plus miles per hour. If you're hopping along from DC fast charger to DC fast charger, you can expect about 160 miles if you're stopping at 10% and charging up to 80%. So first thing here in the car is the CCNC software suite. It's very fast, responsive, works really well, pretty intuitive, and it looks nice in my opinion. Now, my big issue with it is in regard to something I've been complaining about with all of Hyundai Kia cars for a while now, and that is wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but here I've only really tested it with wireless Apple CarPlay, and the issue that I've run in with it is that it's just a little laggy. Say you're listening to something and you want to pause it, you hit the pause button, it doesn't do anything for maybe 1.5, 2 seconds, and same thing going to play. So I don't really like that, but it's totally manageable. It's not the end of the world. I'm not a big fan of the placement of the drive mode selector here. On all of my other Hyundais, this is located on a button next to the horn on the steering wheel. And it makes sense. You got your hand on the steering wheel. All you got to do is just push it real quick and you can get into sport mode and get yourself out of a sticky situation or whatever. But down here, it's much less intuitive. It takes a while for your hand to get down there, and then you got to hunt for it. So I'm really not crazy about the placement of that button. I will say the ventilated seats in this vehicle are nice and strong. They're a lot better than the Volkswagen ID4 I drove about a month ago. They do a pretty good job at cooling down your butt on a warm day. I'm really a big fan of this big open center console design though. It's very reminiscent of the Ioniq 5. It's even more open than the Ioniq 5 in some regard because you don't have the big cup holders that stick up right here, but you do have it taking up this section here underneath the dashboard. But my knee's not banging into anything. I really appreciate that. I love having the physical controls for heated seats, heated steering wheel, vented seats right at your fingertips. All in all, I think it's a good looking center console and dashboard section here. Lots of buttons. I love, love, love the physical buttons. Thank you, Hyundai, for keeping that trend going. And if you have multiple Hyundais, it just makes sense because this layout is basically the same in almost every Hyundai, so you know where to go for what functions. I personally would have preferred to have this be an enclosed area where I could hide things instead of it just being completely open to the world. That's probably personal preference. If you have a big bag or something, you might like having this big open area. But for me, I'd rather be able to stash something in there and not have it be seen. A nice feature here is that if you have your windshield wipers on and you put the car in reverse, but the rear wiper isn't already on, it will begin wiping the windows for you. So we can simulate that by putting the wipers on and put them on high. And then we will go into reverse. And you can see it does a couple wipes here. And then if I go back into park, it stops. So that's kind of neat. I really like this new square shifter design that they've implemented here on the Kona. It just feels nice. It's got this nice knurled finish on it. It's just more paddle-like than just kind of knob-like in the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 where it's just circular. I love to see that Hyundai is keeping the magnetic note area next to the driver display. Here you can see my magnetic eyewear holder holding my Ray-Bans. It's just got a magnet on the back and that sticks to the piece of metal underneath it and keeps your sunglasses right there for you. I've also got my cup holder enlarger that you can go ahead and install in your Kona Electric. This works for 2024, not for earlier model years, only 2024, but both of these are available on my website at ioniqguy.com. Now, sadly, when I took a look at the SEL Kona Electric, I noticed that this upper panel was hard plastic, and I thought, okay, maybe they're saving that for the limited trim. But here we are in the limited trim. This upper panel is all hard plastic, which is a big letdown. At least for the limited trim, this needs to be padded, or at least a softer material than this, because when you're resting your arm here, it just doesn't feel good. So that's a big letdown in my opinion. But something that is a positive is the fact that there is no gloss black plastic in this car, sans the light switch knob here, as well as the windshield wiper knob here on the end of the stalk. Everything else in here is a nice matte black plastic. Really no complaints about the other material. This is almost like a brushed steel look. This is actually more of a gray than a black. So I think the color choices they've made in here are definitely better than some of their previous vehicles. I like the fact that we have a traditional drop-down storage bin in here. I find it more useful than that of the Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6, where it's just a big rectangle that goes deep into the dashboard. This just feels more usable to me. And because of the design of this style, it keeps things from rattling around a lot less. I will say I am pretty disappointed with the ambient lighting on the interior of the Kona Electric. There's a little bit that runs underneath this section here, and then there's some in the front door pockets. But other than that, there's not much else, and it just makes this already dark interior feel really dark at night. I really wish that they would have put more throughout this cabin. I know this is their more budget-friendly EV, but even still, for a $40,000+ car, I feel like it should have some more ambient lighting. Another thing that makes me really feel like I'm not in a $40,000+ car is the fact that you don't have automatically folding side mirrors. So there are no switches or anything here to fold these mirrors in. If you want these to come in, you're going to be folding them yourself, which is really unfortunate, especially for a car this size that you would think is going to be more city-focused. That would be a really nice feature. Unfortunately, it's not here. The windows here are also not double glazed, so single pane windows, which is unfortunate. It allows a little bit more wind noise to get into the cabin when you were at highway speed. I'm very happy that with the bezel around the screen, they made it black. An issue I deal with my Ioniq 6 is it is a very reflective silver color, and it puts a really annoying reflection across the almost entire windshield. And after a while, it gets really old. I haven't experienced that because it is a matte black here, so good job on that as well. I have not found a single USB-A port in this car. Every USB port seems to be USB-C finally. Even on the cheapest of things that you buy these days, most of them come with USB-C cables. I can't remember the last time I bought something that came with a USB-A, so glad to see that that is a relic of the past here in the Kona Electric. Visibility in here is really quite good. You've got pretty tall windows. You've got a corner window there in the back. And then even the view out the back is pretty good. The headrests drop just enough that you can see past them. So really no complaints in terms of visibility here. The side mirrors are nice and big. Hyundai has completely retuned the acceleration in this car. With the outgoing Kona Electric, you could spin the front tires super easily. Here, there is just so little power when you floor this thing at low speeds. There's just almost no way to get them chirping unless it's a little bit wet out. Even in sport mode, this thing is just much more tame than the previous version of the Kona, which some people might like, some people might not. I will say the acceleration in this new Kona is pretty mediocre. It just really doesn't feel fast, and that's not the nature of this car. There is supposedly an N version of the Kona Electric coming in the future, so I'm sure that will be all-wheel drive. That will probably have at least double the horsepower as this. This only has 201 horsepower. So it's really not a speed demon. I-pedal in this car is tuned pretty well. It's a little bit more aggressive than my Ioniq 6, which is good for me. It's still not as aggressive as the Ioniq 5, but it is what it is. So that's going to do it for this video on the 2024 Kona Electric Limited. If you guys do want accessories for this car, you own it, check out my store at ioniqi.com for the sunglass holders and the cup holder enlargers for both the front and rear seat armrest. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.